You ever notice how life gets real quiet right before something big is about to happen? Like God just reaches down and pulls you out of every circle, every conversation, every crowd you used to fit in. And at first it feels cold, it feels lonely, it feels like you've been forgotten. But what if that loneliness ain't punishment? What if it's placement? What if God is not abandoning you but positioning you? Sometimes he has to sit you in silence so you can finally hear the truth that gets drowned out in all the noise. Sometimes he separates you because the people you're trying to hold on to are the same ones slowing your spirit down. And the truth is, I believe you don't grow when you're comfortable. You grow when you're stripped down to nothing but your thoughts, your pain, your hunger, and your faith. That's when you learn who you really are. See, God knows your strength better than you do. He knows the fight you're built for, the purpose he planted in you before you even understood your own heartbeat. And sometimes the only way to bring that purpose out is to isolate you, mold you, and push you into that space where you got no choice but to rise. Being alone ain't a curse. It's the birthplace of warriors, dreamers, visionaries. It's where God removes the voices that confuse you, the people who use you, the battles not meant for you. And in that quiet, in that stillness, he starts rebuilding the parts of your life tried to break. So if you're in that season right now, if everything feels empty and everyone feels distant, don't panic. Don't question it. You're not being abandoned. You're being prepared. God doesn't isolate you to hurt you. He isolates you to grow you, guard you, and get you ready for a life you can't step into around the wrong people. This is why he wants you alone, because where he's taking you, not everybody can follow. Solitude as a divine reset carries a depth that most people overlook because they see being alone as a sign that something has gone wrong, when in reality it's often the moment when everything is finally starting to go right. When God pulls you away from people, distractions, and routines you've grown comfortable with, he isn't trying to weaken you. He's trying to recalibrate your spirit. Life has a way of filling your mind with noise, voices telling you who you should be, what you should want, how you should live. Over time, those voices drown out your own inner truth, the whisper in your chest that rarely gets heard because the world is too loud. Solitude is God's way of cutting the volume so you can listen to what truly matters. When the noise stops, clarity begins. You start hearing thoughts you've been avoiding, feelings you've been burying, questions you never had the courage to confront. That silence becomes a mirror, showing you the parts of yourself that have been hidden under the weight of expectations and the pressure to fit in. And even though facing that truth can feel uncomfortable, it is the beginning of real transformation. A divine reset also strips away the energy of people who drain you without you even noticing. You can spend years giving pieces of yourself to others who don't pour anything back into you. And you won't realize the damage until God steps in and removes them. When he isolates you, it's because he sees the harm long before you do. He sees the conversations behind your back, the intentions people hide, the jealousy that simmers quietly. Solitude protects you from what you couldn't see and didn't know. In that protection, God cleans out your environment like someone clearing a garden so new growth can finally breathe. And once he clears that space, he fills it with lessons about your boundaries, your worth, and the patterns you've tolerated for far too long. These are the kinds of lessons you don't learn when you're surrounded by people distracting you from yourself. Being alone also forces you to reconnect with your own power. When you're constantly surrounded by noise and movement, you start leaning on others for strength, approval, validation. You begin measuring your worth through things outside of you. God knows that dependence weakens your identity, so he pulls you away from everything and everyone that keeps you from standing on your own. It's in solitude that you rediscover the strength that has always been there, but has been ignored because life kept you busy. You start making decisions from a place of conviction instead of fear. You start recognizing what's truly important instead of what looks important. You begin to feel your purpose more clearly because there's nothing clouding your spirit. In that stillness, your heart becomes louder, your intuition sharper, and your connection to God deeper. This divine reset is not just about removing the world around you, it's about resetting the world inside you. God slows your life down so you can start asking the questions that lead to elevation. Who am I without the crowd? What do I want when nobody else is influencing my choices? What is God trying to tell me that I've been too distracted to hear? These questions lead you inward, where the real answers lie. You start to realize that solitude is not emptiness, it's alignment. It's where God rebuilds your focus, renews your strength, and reawakens parts of your spirit that life tried to silence. And even though it can feel uncomfortable at first, solitude becomes the foundation for a stronger, clearer, more grounded version of you. In that reset, you come back to yourself, not the version shaped by pressure or people, but the version shaped by purpose. Isolation reveals truth in a way nothing else can, because when you're finally removed from the noise, the crowds, and the energies that blur your vision, you begin to see life exactly as it is rather than how you wished it to be. Most people spend years surrounded by voices, habits, and relationships that shape their perspective without them even realizing it. You get so used to being in the middle of things that you stop questioning whether those things actually serve you. But when God pulls you away and places you in a season of solitude, it becomes impossible to ignore the reality you've been avoiding. In that quiet space, illusions fall apart, masks slip off, and truth rises to the surface in ways that demand your attention. You start seeing the true intentions of people you once trusted, the real weight of situations you kept brushing off, and the patterns you've accepted just to keep the peace. Isolation becomes a spotlight, revealing everything that darkness tried to hide. When you're alone, you're no longer influenced by the expectations and opinions of others. You see yourself more clearly because there's no one telling you who you should be or manipulating you into becoming what benefits them. You can't be controlled by guilt, pressure, or fear disguised as loyalty. In that space, you start recognizing the difference between those who genuinely cared for you and those who stayed close only because they needed something from you. You begin to notice how your energy shifted around certain people, how your spirit felt drained after certain conversations, how your dreams always seemed smaller in certain environments. Isolation exposes this because you finally have the emotional and mental distance to look back without being clouded by attachment. There's no pretending, no ignoring the signs, no comforting lies. You're left with the raw truth, and as painful as it might be, it becomes the very thing that sets you free. This clarity doesn't just apply to people, it applies to your purpose too. When you're constantly surrounded by activity, you rarely take the time to question whether what you're doing aligns with who you truly are. You get caught in routines that don't feed your soul, responsibilities that drain your passion, and goals that were never even yours to begin with. But solitude forces you to confront what your heart has been whispering all along. You start asking questions like, am I living for myself or for others? Am I walking toward my purpose or away from it? What dreams have I silenced because I was too busy or too afraid? That deep reflection opens doors to truths you might have buried for years. You realize that some of the things you held onto were never meant for you, and some of the things you let go of were exactly what God wanted you to pursue. Isolation untangles the confusion and lets you see your life through a lens of honesty instead of survival. The truth you discover in isolation also shows you who you are without external validation. You start paying attention to your own voice, the one that's been overshadowed by doubt and noise. You learn what you truly believe, what you truly desire, and what you truly stand for. That kind of self-awareness is powerful because once you see who you really are, you can no longer shrink yourself to fit into places that don't honor your spirit. You begin recognizing your worth in a way you couldn't when you were busy trying to meet everyone else's expectations. You start to feel the difference between being surrounded and being understood, between having company and having connection. Isolation becomes a purifier, removing everything that blocks your vision and clouded your purpose. You walk out of that season with sharper instincts, stronger boundaries, and a deeper sense of self. You no longer chase people who were never meant to stay, and you no longer cling to situations that were only delaying your growth. The truth you find when you're alone becomes your compass, guiding you toward a life built on clarity, authenticity, and alignment with the path God always intended for you. Alone seasons build unshakable strength because they force you to confront yourself in ways that comfort and companionship never allow. When you are surrounded by people, it's easy to lean on them to borrow courage, confidence, and energy from the collective. You can hide your doubts, rely on others' opinions, and avoid facing the full weight of your responsibilities. But when God pulls you into solitude, there's no one to prop you up, no distractions to mask your fear, and no one to blame if you stumble. You're left with only yourself. And in that space, strength isn't optional, it becomes necessary. This kind of strength isn't built in classrooms, offices, or social circles. It is forged in quiet struggles, in sleepless nights, in moments when you face your insecurities and decide to rise anyway. Alone seasons demand that you dig deeper than you ever thought possible, that you trust in your resilience even when your body and mind want to give up, and that you discover the power that has always lived inside you but was dormant under the influence of comfort and dependency. The strength cultivated in isolation is unique because it's authentic and self-sustaining. When you develop courage alone, it doesn't rely on applause, recognition, or support. It's a fire that burns from within. You start making decisions with conviction rather than consensus. You learn to trust your instincts because no one is around to validate them. You experience setbacks and heartbreaks without the cushion of external sympathy, and you find ways to rise on your own. In solitude, failure becomes a teacher rather than a shame, and patience becomes a practice rather than a test. Every challenge faced alone strengthens the muscles of your mind, your heart, and your spirit. You begin to realize that your capacity to endure is far greater than you believe, and your ability to stand firm is not defined by who is around you, but by who you are when the world isn't watching. This alone built strength also teaches you boundaries in a profound way. When you are forced to rely on yourself, you become more aware of how people and environments affect your energy. You recognize patterns that weaken you, relationships that drain you, and habits that keep you small. You learn to say no without guilt to protect your time, your emotions, and your purpose. Strength isn't just about power, it's about discernment, and isolation gives you the clarity to see what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Over time, this discernment turns into resilience because you no longer allow distractions, negativity, or toxicity to derail your growth. You begin to operate from a place of control over yourself rather than reaction to others. And that's the kind of strength that is unshakable because it is rooted in self-awareness and intentionality. Moreover, being alone prepares you for storms that you cannot predict. Life doesn't give warning signs for pain, betrayal, or loss. It hits when it hits, and those who have only relied on others for support can crumble under pressure. But those who have been trained in the solitude of their own strength can withstand turbulence with grace and clarity. Alone seasons function like a gym for your spirit. Each moment of discomfort, each instance of doubt, each hour spent facing yourself without crutches is a repetition that builds endurance. By the time life throws the real challenges at you, you're not breaking, you're bending and flexing, adapting while staying anchored. You've learned how to survive on your own terms and thrive regardless of external chaos. Unshakable strength also emerges from the lessons of humility solitude teaches. When no one is around to elevate you or shield you from your mistakes, you confront your limitations head on. You recognize your weaknesses not as failures, but as areas to grow. You build patience for your own journey and compassion for your own struggles. This combination of courage, clarity, and humility produces a strength that doesn't boast or seek attention. It simply exists, steady and unwavering, like a tree that has weathered countless storms and still stands tall. The foundation of this strength is deeper than muscles or pride. It is built from facing yourself fully, owning your truth, and choosing to rise even when the world is silent. Hidden preparation for a greater destiny is one of the most profound reasons God allows you to experience seasons of solitude, even when they feel uncomfortable or unwanted. Often people view being alone as a pause, a setback, or a punishment, but in truth, it is a deliberate and sacred process of equipping you for what lies ahead. God removes you from familiar spaces, familiar faces, and predictable routines not to isolate you forever, but to prepare you for a life that cannot be lived in the same way you once did. In solitude, the distractions, the noise, and the influences that have shaped your past fall away, leaving you in an environment where the only things left are your thoughts, your faith, and the purpose that He has been crafting in secret. This hidden preparation is not visible to the outside world, and it doesn't come with recognition or applause, but it is exactly the work that molds you into the person capable of stepping into the destiny that has been reserved for you. During these alone seasons, God begins to refine your character and sharpen your abilities. Every moment of struggle, every late night of reflection, every tear shed in silence is part of the training that life will later demand. You are being taught patience, discipline, resilience, and the kind of focus that cannot be gained in comfort or amidst constant companionship. The solitude removes the crutches of reliance on others, forcing you to dig deep within yourself for guidance and strength. Through this process, you learn to trust in your own instincts while simultaneously learning to hear God's voice more clearly. Preparation is hidden because it is intimate, personal, and sacred. It's the quiet work behind the scenes that no one else can witness, but its effects are seen in the results that will come when the time is right. Isolation also exposes areas of your life that need transformation before you can embrace the destiny God has planned. Sometimes there are habits, mindsets, or attachments that would prevent you from fully stepping into the greatness that awaits. God uses solitude to confront you with these truths, not to punish you, but to ensure that when you rise fully ready. You begin to understand the depth of your calling and recognize the qualities that will be required of you to carry it out. The alone season becomes a crucible, burning away fear, doubt, and indecision, leaving only clarity, determination, and the vision of what is possible when you align yourself with His plan. It is during these moments that you learn the value of preparation over instant gratification and of readiness over rushed action. In addition to shaping your character, solitude allows for spiritual alignment and clarity of purpose. When distractions are removed, you can hear the subtle directions and whispers of God more distinctly. Your mind, once cluttered by opinions, expectations, and superficial concerns, becomes a clear channel for guidance and inspiration. You begin to notice patterns in your life, lessons in your past, and opportunities that you would have overlooked had you been distracted by constant interaction. This period of hidden preparation ensures that when doors open, you are able to walk through them with confidence and wisdom, equipped not just with ambition, but with insight and discernment. It is a time of quiet strategy where God molds your heart, sharpens your mind, and strengthens your spirit in anticipation of the calling that will demand every ounce of your focus and courage. Furthermore, the isolation prepares you for the kind of responsibility and influence that comes with a greater destiny. People often imagine that success is measured by wealth, status, or recognition, but true destiny requires the ability to lead, inspire, and uplift others while remaining grounded in humility and integrity. Alone seasons cultivate these qualities by teaching you self-reliance, reflection, and empathy. You begin to understand the power of patience, the importance of listening before acting, and the necessity of faith in moments when the path is unclear. Every lesson, every quiet struggle, every challenge you face in isolation is part of the hidden curriculum designed to equip you for the life that lies ahead. A life that is far bigger than anything you could have imagined before God began this preparation process. Aloneness as protection is one of the most overlooked yet powerful ways God shows His care and guidance in our lives. Often, when people find themselves in a season of solitude, the first reaction is confusion, fear, or even resentment, because being separated from friends, opportunities, or familiar environments feels like rejection or abandonment. Yet, the truth is that God sees dangers, betrayals, and challenges long before we do. He knows the battles we are not ready for, the people who are not trustworthy, and the paths that would lead to harm. By allowing us to be alone, He creates a buffer, a protective space where we are shielded from experiences that could damage our spirit, derail our growth, or delay the fulfillment of our destiny. In this way, solitude is not emptiness, is a divine safety net, preserving us until the right time, the right people, and the right circumstances converge for our benefit, being alone provides the perspective necessary to recognize hidden threats. In the midst of constant interaction, it is easy to be influenced by the wrong intentions, subtle manipulation, or negative energy without realizing it. When God isolates you, the distractions fade and your mind becomes clear enough to see what you could not before. You begin to notice patterns, inconsistencies, and behaviors that may have been invisible in the chaos of company. The people who were draining your energy, the relationships that were toxic, and the opportunities that would have led to compromise become evident in the stillness. God uses this protective solitude to sharpen your discernment, teaching you to identify not only who and what is harmful, but also what aligns with your growth, purpose, and long-term well-being. He is guarding your spirit by creating a space where the camouflage of danger is stripped away, revealing the truth that keeps you safe. Aloneness also protects your progress and preserves your potential. Sometimes being surrounded by others can slow you down, distract you, or lead you to settle for mediocrity. People may inadvertently or intentionally limit your vision, discourage your ambition, or influence you to compromise your values. God's intentional separation removes these influences, allowing you to grow, learn, and evolve in a space that is free from obstruction. He shields you from external forces that could stunt your spiritual, emotional, or intellectual development, giving you the time and room to cultivate your strengths and prepare for the challenges ahead. In this protective season, you are given the opportunity to focus entirely on the work within yourself, strengthening your character, deepening your understanding, and fortifying your resilience without interference. The protective nature of solitude extends to unforeseen dangers we cannot predict or control. Life is unpredictable, and often the harm that comes our way is disguised as opportunity or comfort. God, in His infinite wisdom, knows the outcomes we cannot see, the consequences of paths we might be tempted to take, and the people whose presence could alter our course in ways that harm rather than help. By keeping us alone, He is intervening on our behalf, preventing experiences that would not serve our highest good. This form of protection is not always immediately visible or understood, but in retrospect, the wisdom of these alone seasons becomes clear. They are the invisible hands that keep us from pain, delay unnecessary suffering, and preserve the trajectory of our purpose. In addition, being alone strengthens your spiritual defenses and equips you for future battles. Protection is not only about keeping harm away, it is also about preparing you to face challenges with resilience and clarity. God uses solitude to teach you to rely on your faith, to listen to His guidance, and to trust your own instincts in the absence of external reassurance. Through this process, you become spiritually fortified, emotionally grounded, and mentally prepared to navigate a world full of distractions, deceptions, and trials. Solitude becomes a sanctuary where your inner armor is forged, enabling you to face whatever comes with confidence, discernment, and courage. It is in this protective space that God ensures you emerge not just unharmed, but stronger, wiser, and ready to walk the path He has designed specifically for you.